Chapter 91. Versus Holy Knights Part 2. Saint Demon Confrontation Arcade. At the same time as Arno abandoned himself to a desperate fight, every other Division 2 abandoned any expectations of being able to set up a barrier. On the other hand, Team Captain Grenda's squad was easily setting up the barrier. And suddenly they saw a single young gentleman walking towards them. He was walking in their direction, his blue hair parted by two horns. These horns implied him as a non-human being. Grenda clicked her tongue, left the setting up of the barrier to her assistant, and readied a squad to engage. "Are you also this city's denizen?" Though it was obvious, she asked in order to buy some time. And though she didn't expect an answer. "Correct. Let me give you an advice. Peacefully sit down and wait. If you do, no harm will come to you, you know? That's the best outcome for you lot," he said, completely looking down on them. Grenda exhaled and rebuked the offer. In the first place, you can't make a deal with a monster, and there was only a single one before them. Though he seems like a high-ranked ogre, he would hardly be a danger to them. Ogres tend to favor battle focusing on raw strength. They defeat their enemies by having heavy weapons with their brute strength. Furthermore, these are also individuals who can protect themselves with incredibly tough muscles and high recovering abilities. Ogres are an adventurer's natural enemies. But they are the Knights Templar. Not a group that could possibly lose against an ogre. They have never seen a ranked ogre. The monster before has an appearance of a particularly weak ogre. But he carries the air of supremacy about him. Chances are, it's a named unique monster. Its confidence must come from the fact that it's among the strongest beings in the forest. If so, they needed to teach it the power of the Templars. Like teaching a frog that has never left its birth swamp how wide the world is. So that it would never look down on them again. Well, we will destroy it here so it won't have that chance. Grenda thought, closing her eyes. Attention. Single target. Danger rating A. 3 members. Dispose of it. She had thought to wait until her assistant set up the holy barrier, but there was only a single enemy. It didn't discharge a powerful aura, so its danger rating was rate low. That rating, however, decided Grenda's squad's fate. You are being careless. Aren't you looking down on your enemy too much? As soon as the 3 knights approached the lad, the scene turned foggy for a split second. And, passing right through the knights, the lad continued the relaxing stroll. Why did he pass the knights? No, the knights have already collapsed. The moment they were in range, he had completely immobilized them. These 3 powerful knights were rendered defenseless. In a single moment. What did you do? You bastard. What are you? She heard her assistants cry out, and an intense feeling assaulted her. She was remembering what Commander Hinata has said so many times. And the enemy before her released strength that could make you despair. At this point, she understood the meaning of Hinata's warning. But it was far too late. Shadows sneaking from behind her have already disabled her entire team. Completely expressionless, a group of lads with identical face disabled them and disappeared. It seems that he had cloned himself and surrounded the enemy from the very beginning. Just like Hinata, the moment he warned them the battle had been decided. He did not look down on them at all but prioritized results. Grenda lost. I could tell you my name, but it's a pain. I have a reason to keep you alive. Tell me everything you know about the church. I'm currently studying torture, so if you don't answer, I'll be experimenting on you. Of course, feel free to struggle. Now then, what will you do? I don't care either way. The lad muttered, completely uninterested, his expression unchanging. Coupled with his beautiful face, the scene filled Grenda's heart with fear. Fighting is useless. If so, will she choose to talk or to die? Then she noticed that he had left all her friends alive. Maybe, if she were to choose death, he would offer the same to every one of them. Thinking that, she decided to buy some time by choosing to be tortured. Torture me or whatever you wish. We shall never bow before a monster. Grenda said as if she were giving up. She drew her blade and filled it with spiritual energy. While thus emerging her spiritual weapon, she confronted the enemy. Even if her strength wasn't enough, she would at least satisfy her pride. The blue-black-haired beautiful lad, Sui, looked at her with a slightly dissatisfied expression, and exhaled at her foolishness. I see, you chose to resist. I care little about ranks and such, so I'd rather you just tell me whatever you know. Faster than he could complete the sentence, Grenda moved. Her sword quickly stabbed the body before her. But, perhaps she cut only a clone, because the enemy simply faded away. Grenda understood. If she couldn't find his true body, she had no hopes of victory. Now then, let's begin the torture. Let me know when you choose to talk. A sweet voice whispered into her ear. Grenda intended to fight, but Sui did not consider her as a being that could hurt him at all. And suddenly, Grenda felt waves of pleasure overcome her. Sui had begun to stimulate her erogenous nerves with a thread. Rather than pain, a heavenly pleasure attacked her. Now then, I have sealed your ability to faint. So do talk before you go mad. Grenda struggled inside this hell of pleasure. But, unfortunately, she soon gave up. As if threatened off the battlefield by Xian, Gabuta and Gabul headed towards a small group of knights. At some point Hakuryu was running beside them and Tsui's shadow squad had joined. Don't hold us back, dearest brother. I asked you to come, and you should make sure you don't hinder me. That was Gabul's and Suka's exchange. Though they always seem aggressive, everyone knows they actually treasure each other. Only they themselves don't notice it. And after this exchange they had finally reached their destination. The knights too felt a group of monsters approaching them and finished their preparations. They filled their weapons with spiritual power and were thus fully armed. Be careful. Those monsters don't seem like small fry. By Captain, there's 6 dragon youths among them. And those monsters that aren't wearing armor are Greys, right? No, though it's hard to believe, those are not Greys. They are the fair Oni. Unlike Greys that depend on raw strength, these unique beings utilize special abilities. Oh, sounds annoying. But their Dragonut's vanguard also seems to have strange air about him. The knights discussed. The approaching monsters were surely the main force of the monster country. The captain clicked his tongue in annoyance. But, even if they abandoned constructing the barrier here, surely another site would succeed. That just proves how well Hinata has read their plan. It's a good thing that their main force had come here. Alright. I will defeat those large dragonutes. You two defeat the Oni. The other 5 deal with the other 5 dragonutes. Understood. Wait, didn't you forget about that hobgoblin? Captain Gregory gave the Inquirer an incredulous look. So what that I ignored some small fry? I'll deal with him in a single moment later. He said, and the knights nodded in response. They knew the captain's power. The likes of hobgoblins would not even be able to land a single hit on him. But, why is the hobgoblin included with the rest of them? A few of them thought, suspicion growing. Not a single monster introduced themselves. Nor did they intend to allow them to do so. Drop dead, you hindrance. High King's spirit beheading. Swinging his halberd, he fired a powerful shockwave at the monsters. The energy that escaped Templar Gregory's body intended to defeat the monsters in a single striker. In addition to that, he fired the holy cannon from his hand, the bullets spiraling around the halberd's attack. The energy from the halberd and the bullets joined into a single energy bolt. This was Gregory's secret anti-monster certain kill technique. This shockwave pressed on in a straight line as if light itself. Right in the direction of Gabul and Suka, who had already avoided the attack. As for the remaining Gabuta and Hakuryu, Hakuryu had jumped onto the trees and moved via branches towards the knights. So only Gabuta stayed. The path was very constricted, so only someone with Hakuryu's alertness could avoid the attack. For Gregory, as long taking out 2 or 3 enemies with his attack would have been ideal, but he would be satisfied as long as he killed that small fry. And thus, completely forgetting about the hobgoblin, he diverted his attention to the dragonutes upcoming from the sky. Thus began this fight. The one in most danger was Gabuta. Anyone and everyone that could have saved him have gone on ahead. Seriously, what a joke. How cruel to leave this frail me behind. Gabuta complained, preparing for an attack. Unlike the ridiculous department heads, there was little he could do. Nor did he want to be treated the same as them. Excuse me, Wisdom King Raphael-san. It's an emergency. What should I do? Solution. If you, individual, Gabuta, get hit by that, you will die. You should unite with the Star Wolf, slip into the shadow, and attack the enemy from behind. Understood. Thanks for always saving me. Surprisingly enough, as long as a thought link was established, Gabuta could communicate with Raphael. And, using Raphael's calculations, Gabuta immediately sprang into action. After uniting with the Star Wolf and jumping into the shadows, he was able to avoid the shockwave. And in this state he continued to move. He felt a great increase in his abilities, and his raw strength at least double. Without doubting Raphael's calculations at all, Gabuta sneaked behind the knight who had attacked him. He was completely unaware to the fact that this enemy was the squad captain and one of the more powerful opponents. In fact, he blindly obeyed the Wisdom King's directions. Knight Templar Gregory by no means let his guard down. That is why he was able to respond to that presence. When he felt a monster suddenly appear behind him, he rolled forward to escape that place. Moreover, he was able to dodge the attack of the wolf's fangs coming at him from behind, and even launch a counter-attack with his halberd. Gregory was surprised that the hobgoblin whom he had written off as dead a second ago had come out unscathed and attacked him. But, on this field of battle, he rapidly recovered and focused on the enemy. Then thought that he had underestimated his enemy was now gone from his mind, and he deemed the one before him a worthy opponent. Gabuta and Gregory. Without losing or letting each other gain a single inch, a violent battle erupted between the two. Since he traveled via the shadow, Gabuta appeared within the enemy faster than anyone else. This surprised not only the knights, but Gabuta and the rest as well. Shadow step, huh? How shocking. To think he could use the shadows better than we could. No, Gabuta is amazing. Yeah. He's stronger than us, you know? Tauka and Seika responded to Suka's complaint. Though she had never heard anyone describe Gabuta as strong until now, she knew he was not weak. Truly, the Monster Country Tempest simply had too many strong individuals. The degree of her master Sui's power she could not even fathom. She could hardly be astonished by him. Right, I guess we also need to show off our powers a bit, she said, and took to the skies in order to fight off the soldiers who advancing towards Gabuta, thus effectively crippling their communications. Suka's group was thus able to fight the knights one-on-one. Gabuta immediately set off to overwhelm the two assistants. As Gregory's direct assistants, by no means were they weak. But their choice of weapon failed them this time. The weapon which was meant to cut off the enemy's magic energy just couldn't pierce Gabu's natural armor. Though these knights certainly had other skills to use, Gabuta himself was a first-rate warrior. Blocking Gabu's spear, snapped their swords in half. Moreover, the knight's paraded ability of using spirit magic without an incantation had no effect on him. So they couldn't gain benefit by suddenly firing off magic at him. In short, they couldn't deal him any injury, and even the most pettiest of tricks throwing sand in his eyes wouldn't work due to magic perception ability. They were completely powerless. What's wrong? Is this all you can do? With this much you wouldn't last even an hour of Hakuru Dono's training session, Gabuta said, while freely playing with the adjutants. From the very beginning, Gabuta had a resistance to the holy attribute and paid little mind to their spirit magic archive. Besides, they were inferior in sword skill and other physical abilities. Thus, Gabuta was a monster who could overwhelm two adjutant-class holy knights. Unable to accept the existence of such a monster, the adjutants decided to try to buy some time. As long as they could hold out until Gregory would cut down that hobgoblin, it would be their victory. It seems that these men have overlooked about the fair Oni who was no longer in sight. The rest of the squad too, though called a force that could crush 1,000 enemies by themselves, were barely able to hold back the Dragonutes. And thus the battle continued, with every group battling their respective opponents. There was someone who overlooked this battle from the treetops. Hakuru. While looking at this scene, Gabuta is having too much fun. Suka's group was able to find good opponents. If a battle is too easy, it doesn't teach you anything. Thank goodness they were able to find good opponents. Practice cannot teach one to feel danger. He muttered, observing their battles. Of course, should any one of them had wound up in trouble, he intended to support them right away, but that was clearly unnecessary. Gabuta, you bastard, if you can do that much, why were you running away then? But I guess he's doing his best now. All the guidance of our wisdom King Raphael, he said with a satisfied nod. Everything was going according to plan. When Shion suggested they stage a fight with similar ranked people, though it was completely idiotic, Hakuharu and Raphael decided to turn it into training. Though Hakuharu could see Benimaru finding out about this arrangement later and demanding that they do the fight over. Truly, he hoped that Shion would learn the fear of pain. No, it's probably useless even if she gets hurt. He muttered and sighed. Now then, with regards to the plan. Using the thought link he could communicate with the Wisdom King. Chances are, it was Raphael who had decided what abilities would be given to them. After having decided
what kind of servants would most benefit their common lord Rimuru. At the present moment, without any doubt or suspicion, they fully depended on Raphael's advice. Though Raphael often saw no need to reply, this time Raphael did. And this carefully designed battle continued. With this, Gabuta and Soka's proficiency may increase. But, Gable's no good. He's having too much fun. When this is over, I'll work him to the bone. Hakuharu muttered discontented. But the pitiful Gable did not know these things and proudly fought the knights. His fun times would continue a little longer.